You are now listening to Handsome Reads.
Hello, excuse me. So, ma'am, miss, do you by chance know what time it is? Why, it's time for another Handsome Reads, of course. Greetings, my good people, and welcome back to our awesome community of handsome narrator, this guy right here, and you, my esteemed guests and avid listeners. Today, we resume our journey through season 1 of Army of Sin with today's episode titled Change of Heart. This episode is set in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. He looked the same as he did on that fateful night. Custom designed 3-piece suit and all. His face bore no sign of age, and it had been 19 years since she had met him. By God, he was still as gorgeous, body glowing beneath the wicker lamp he now adjusted. Unbuttoning the folds of the maroon blazer to expose the bleached white of his linen undershirt, he took a seat facing the door Ma Faina now leaned against. The russet brown of his skin seemed to soak in the low light until his flesh looked almost bronze. His eyes, a deep brown, glowing around the pitch black of his pupils. There were no lines, not a misplaced hair upon his face, no hint of a morning shadow. The only thing that made his looks the slightest bit normal was the thick tussle of jet black hair. Look at you, Faina Valkyrin, speechless, he mocked softly. Swallowing, Ma Faina collected her thoughts before approaching the seat opposite where he sat. Good morning, Mr. Donoma, she greeted once more. Smiling, his teeth slightly longer than most men she encountered, Henri placed the fedora at his side before leaning forward with his palms clasped. These 19 years have been kind to you, young one. You look no different, sir. She looked older than him, this dark savior of hers, yet she could feel his age pressing against her, filling the room, filling her mind with the sensations that she knew so very little of life. How could he possibly stand it? The weight of all those experiences. Her chest felt tighter, even as she forced herself to hold his gaze. My apologies, mortal, he replied, waving a hand as if brushing away an annoying fly from his field of vision. Faina could now breathe easier, as the invisible weight of his presence lifted slightly, watching him as he leaned back into the comfort of the chair. Does he have to go with you? What is this? Henri asked after a pause, eyes narrowing slightly. Don't tell me you have grown attached to those two. That was not our agreement, Valkyrin. I know, sir. However, I, I do not believe they will be of any help to you. Not yet, at least. There are far bigger issues at stake than singing in underground nightclubs, he replied dismissively. She rose from the chair to kneel before him, where he sat, with ankles crossed, maroon socks complementing his trousers. Head bowed, she fixed her eyes on the pristine pair of chocolate shoes he was wearing. Please, Mr. Donoma, give them more time, she pleaded. My, oh my. You mortals surely are an entertaining bunch, Henri replied before leaning forward to place a palm atop the bald dome of the former assassin's head. You speak to me as if your life is your own. You forget the very reason you draw breath is because of the purpose you serve. No, Mr. Donoma, I live to fulfill. I have not finished, Valkyren, he continued, tightening his grip over the top of her head. The war is almost upon us, and it is time their training commenced. As promised, you shall have your life of continued freedom, being the reasonable one that I am. He drew her to her feet. I shall gift you, at least, with the opportunity to say goodbye. They are more than just pawns for your games, Faina spoke, taking a step back, steel pouring into her voice even as she raised her chin in defiance. Ah, yes, that infamous deathly look of Schmet Ruka, the Russian hand of death. Henri smiled. Yes, they are indeed much more. You, as a matter of fact, were the only pawn in the situation. Ma Faina felt her blood begin to simmer. Breathing deeply, she cleared her mind past the loss of sanity. Henri's smile grew wider as he simply watched her fight her war for self-control. Mayhap you require a refresher in your position in this life, he said. Flicking his hand to the left, Faina's wiry frame flew across the room. The pop of her shoulder dislocating on impact pierced the silent veil of the room. She uttered not a sound of pain, not even as her head lifted of its own volition before slamming into the carpeted floor. And slammed again, and slammed one more time. Henri lifted the pressure off of her body, inspecting his nails as if he had not just dished out discomfort. Coming to his feet in a fluid motion, he crossed to where the woman lay behind the desk. Books that had fallen on impact lay scattered about her petite form. He sensed her movement from the corner of his eyes as she surged up from where she lay. Sweeping up the letter opener from the desk with her uninjured hand, she launched herself off the arm of an collapsed chair. Faina spat curses as she found herself suspended a mere fingertip from where he stood. Entertaining indeed, Henri commented. How is it you revert to your mother language in such events of great emotion? Her fingers grasped air, her face a mask of cold, protective rage, as one side of her head held a red and angry bruise from its impact against the carpet. The corner of her eyebrow missing quite a number of follicles. I see you still possess that fighting spirit that caused us to meet on that day. Perhaps I should remind you of the events which led up to that point. Reaching up to cup her face, he drew her now weightless, suspended body closer to him, while his pupils began to expand until all that was left of his iris was a thin ring of dark brown. Faina fought the falling sensation brought on by his hypnotic stare to no avail, finding herself plunged back into a memory. 19 years ago, in Russia. The blood would not stop running came the young woman's panicked thoughts. The burn spreading across her left shoulder could be ignored. She was a righty, after all, and as long as her trigger finger worked, she had a chance at survival. At least that was what her parents had always drilled into her head. How in the hell was she supposed to have a proper shooting stance if her left leg was now useless? Nothing but a limb, soaked, red, and heavy. Damn it to hell! This bleeding would not stop, she thought hysterically, her usual calm deserting her as the possibility that this was where she might die began to sink in. Bullets pinged off the temporary refuge of the dumpster where she lay sprawled out, jolting her mind back into battle mode and away from hysterics, adrenaline helping her to focus. Capturing the released magazine, she counted her rounds before reinserting and loading the chamber. Pressing a kiss against the barrel, she whispered against the sleek black metal beneath her lips. Get me out of here, Matilda, and I promise you I will clean you every day. Every day, baby. It's over, Phi, called the deep bass of Damien. Comrade, now former comrade, considering he was attempting to put a bullet through her skull. She wasted no time attempting to reply, hastily undoing the tie of her thick hair. Gritting her teeth, she used the flat of her palm to press her leg, cupping her palm in an effort to scoop as much of the blood leaking out of her leg as she could. Eyes and ears peeled for movement, she applied the bloody palm to her hair, fighting back the bile that rose at the smell of her own blood mixed in with moldy garbage. Reapplying her blood-soaked hand as many times until she felt it was believable enough, she offered up a silent prayer to whoever was listening before tucking the gun into the fold of her metal jacket and pulling the now matted mess of her hair over her face. Easing her body against the cold floor, she slowed her breathing as best she could, careful not to ruffle even a wisp of hair with each exhale. Do you really think this desperate attempt will work? Asked a gentle but unfamiliar voice near her head. Faina showed no response, peering at him through the curtain of her hair, her right hand slowly angling her hidden gun where she thought his head would be. "All right, you are pretending to be dead," the voice responded, answering his own question. "Might I suggest an alternative?" Whoever this man was, he was in danger of being caught in impending crossfire. "Get away, you fool," she mutely willed him. "The only fool here is you, Faina Valkyrin," he spoke over the drum of combat boots as her assailants made their way down the dead end to where she lay in wait. "Do you want to live?" Did she dare hope? Or was this simply a hallucination brought on by her accumulated loss of blood? To be continued. Only one episode remains. Do you want to hear it as bad as I want to read it to you? Then let's meet back here in a week as we put the finishing touches on what I trust has been an interesting first season of Army of Sin. Continue taking good care of yourselves, and remember, you are the answer to someone's question of, do angels really exist? Until next time, and as always, love and light.